All right. We are looking live on a beautiful summer series. The JT and Looney Podcast begins. I'm in my backyard off the mean streets of Summerlin, and Tom Looney, like Chris Collinsworth, sliding into his chair in Hollywood, California. Good to have you, Tom. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Shout out to the EMTs, the guys, the first responders who show up in those ambulances when things happen. And then my 92-year-old neighbor across the street had an event, and they worked, and he ended up passing. They worked, and they had him laid out in the driveway, and they worked an hour like he was the president of the United States. And it was amazing how hard they worked to save somebody who had already lived 92 years. And they didn't say, oh, he's 92. We're not going to work as hard. No. It was like, there was the president of the United States laying on the driveway, and they worked so hard to try to keep him alive, and they didn't succeed. But it was a pretty sad and amazing thing to watch how hard they worked.
Wow, this happened in where did this happen again?
This happened yesterday afternoon, about 5:00, and we knew my 92-year-old neighbor, who I always bragged about, who had gone through COVID and different operations, and never let me. I'm working out all the time. Never let me help him with the garbage. Always, nope, never wanted help with anything. But took a quick nosedive in the last few months in terms of his health, as sometimes might happen if you're 92. And I watched these guys work so hard, and they're using all the other stuff and stepping back and trying to shock them back into life. And they had an automatic defibrillator which they put on them, which just pumps your chest. And because the guys were getting tired from doing it, I guess there's a new gadget they have that they used, and it was to no avail. But it was so impressive how hard they worked.
Well, I'm sorry you had to see that. That's never good to see, but you made something unique out of it, talking about the people that worked on the individual, even though he's deceased, because these emergency workers and, what happens, first responders and all of that, we need more of them. We need more of them. We don't want more of them. Politics are getting in the way, potentially, about the process of hiring more people, defunding the money that we need for that. We need fire, EMT. We need police to save us, protect us, and help us when we're in harm's way. And sometimes you don't get it until you see what you saw up close, and then it really strikes like it hit you home.
Oh, it does. It does, and it did hit me in a. It was sad and impressive. All at the same, little umami going on there. Sad and impressive, all at the same time. It's incredible.
All right, let's talk about a lot. You had a birthday. Happy belated birthday for everybody on the JT and Looney podcast. Get in the comments or like and subscribe and wish Looney a birthday. You went out to Palm Springs, which is a fascinating topic to me because normally you don't go to the boiler room. Normally you don't go to the hottest spot on the planet when the weather's nice. You wait for June gloom. A lot of my friends run to Palm Springs. They're very good at it when there's clouds on the coast of Encinitas or PB or Point Loma. And they go, wow, we got a 3-day weekend and it's just not going to break. It's the gloom is going to be on the coast, and they run out to Palm Springs, where I still believe they've never seen a cloud. They've never had a cloudy day. So how is Palm Springs? How'd it go?
It wasn't a boiler room like it normally is, which was actually quite nice. And it was a last second idea. Sometimes I can't believe that you've been around the world, because it takes, for me, sitting down and making the plans is the annoying part. Doing the thing is great. And but it was so I hadn't made many plans for a summer trip, and so that was a last second spontaneous, incredible trip. And it's just really cool place. It's like LA without the hassle, palm trees, sunshine, small town. It's got a really people go out. You know how on cruise ships they'll have a dress up night, a formal night, and Saturday night in Palm Springs is like a formal night. People go out and kind of celebrate the fact that it has such great Hollywood roots, and people are dressed to the nines, walking, and also happy to be outside because you can't go outside during the day because it's too hot. And they walk through downtown West Palm Canyon Drive, dressed to the nines, like they're going to the Academy Awards. And if you're at an outdoor cafe, it's really something to see.
More and more people are starting to realize that you should move to Palm Springs because the weather, the golf, the restaurants, but it's really a unique lifestyle. Either you go in there, there's a place called Coachella, which is right there. So all the young people go there. They have a concert that has over 100,000 people, no matter who's performing. It could be Beyonce, it could be Paul McCartney. They go out to the polo fields, and it's just gorgeous. A giant Ferris wheel, the mountains, the Carmel Mountains, and you're listening, and they really lock it in acoustically, so it sounds amazing. And everybody wants to play at Coachella, but you got to understand the heat in the summer is tough, and you are subject to California taxes. You are still in California with your California prices and taxes. But again, the experiences I've had there have always been memorable. I mean, Mark Davis, owner of the Raiders, has a house that he had on a golf course on the 18th hole. And I remember taking my kids out there, and we stayed at the Marriott Desert Springs, and we walked over with the stroller to his house, and we sat in the backyard, and we looked out, and I said, this is where Sinatra, Al Davis, Peter Lawford,
Elvis
Sammy
Presley,
Davis,
yep.
JFK wanted a vacation for a reason. It's not Vegas. It's not Vegas, but it's a escape from Vegas in LA, which I think normally is pretty perfect.
Oh, it's incredible. And, currently it's, I think, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cher, call it home. Frank Sinatra, before he died, when he knew it was his last days, said to Barbara, take me home. And that meant Palm Springs. Yeah, so it does have deep show business roots, and you can see why anybody might go out there for a simple vacation, curiosity, and want to stay with the mountains, the palm trees, and the sunshine.
All right, let's get some sports housekeeping events out here. First off, football season starting. I'm embedded at Raiders training camp, which is in Henderson, Nevada, which might be hotter than Palm Springs, but we haven't had that big heat wave yet. We haven't had that 115, 118 yet. It's been really nice out here. I was gone for most of July, and I'm so excited that I threaded the needle and did what I dreamed of getting out of here a number of times. I'm on my way to Canton for the Hall of Fame. You got to get out of here in July. But how does it feel? Football's back. We got a Thursday night game. The Chargers and the Lions at Tom Benson Field, because he paid his way into the Hall of Fame by paying for that stadium to one day get induction into the Hall of Fame. And I will not be at the game, nor would I be interested in the game, but I'll be on the grounds in Canton, Ohio, as football's finally here.
And tell us who's being inducted this year, and tell us what's going on with your itinerary in Canton.
Yeah. Eric Allen, the legendary cornerback, who's my partner. He's been my partner. You were my partner for 14 years. You're my podcast partner on this platform. Eric Allen's my partner on the Raiders, and he is getting inducted after waiting 19 years with his 54 interceptions. He was a legend with the Eagles, with Reggie White and Jerome Brown. Came to the Raiders on the back end of his career and was dominant, and he finally gets in. So I have the honor of helping out and being the MC for the party, which is a really high honor for me in Raider Nation. Also getting inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame will be Jared Allen, the former edge rusher from the Vikings. Remember him? Antonio Gates, well-deserved, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play. And this is a good one. Sterling Sharp from the senior committee, Shannon Sharp's brother, who had a shortened career due to injuries, but a dominant player.
He was great.
So there's only 4 getting in. I think the big headline is who didn't get in Adam Vinatieri should have been first ballot, the greatest kicker of all time. Ichiro almost went in unanimous. Mariano Rivera went in. I thought Vinatieri was a lock. He didn't get in. Eli Manning didn't get in. Peyton couldn't move the room. Eli shouldn't have got in first ballot. And then Luke Kuechly, the great linebacker from Carolina, very similar to Sterling Sharp, shortened career, but I thought he was a first ballot guy. Oh, and you'll love this. Guess who's getting into the Hall of Fame? Brent Musburger.
Oh,
Brent Musburger's finally getting in. How about that?
Oh my God, that is going to be something. That's going to be a great speech. He's a great story that I got to tell Brent, and that was although he's never said my name out loud, like he said, "Your JT the Brick is waiting back in the studio." I remember how much fun.
It was amazing.
Just heard Brent say your name. Brent, I'm in a college class about the art of speaking. I think that was the name of the class. And the teacher said, "Does anybody know what articulate means?" And I raised my hand. He said, "Name somebody articulate." And I didn't know he was going to. I thought he was going to ask me what it meant. I went, Brent Musburger. Right? I guess it must have been football season. So that's all, the first name I could think of. And so I'm at the NBA Finals, covering the finals with the Looney and Dave show in Indianapolis, and we are covering the Pacers and the Lakers in the finals at the Jose Canseco Fieldhouse back in the day. And I'm in the media elevator. It's packed to the gills, and I'm pushed up against Brent Musburger, and I got to tell him. He loved it. I got to tell him that story about how the professor told me, name someone articulate. I said, Brent Musburger. He loved the story. He was calling it for ESPN at the time, and had a great encounter with him. And I think he's the best of the best.
Yeah, he is. I got just one Brent Musburger story. I met him late in his career. He became the voice of the Raiders. And he became the voice of the Raiders in Vegas. And we were there the COVID year that no one was in the building, and the year after that. And his touchdown call would be jackpot. Which I thought was good. I thought that was good for Vegas. Jackpot. And Brent wasn't the classic radio play-by-play guy. He was the TV legendary play-by-play guy that could let a video breathe. And he got thrown into doing radio and did a fine job, and we worked with his son. So anyway, the Raiders played a regular season game in London, and we all went out together, and we stayed at this beautiful estate at this rugby world headquarters outside of London, about 20 minutes, and that's where they put us. And at night, Brent would say, let's all walk down to the pub. And we'd walk out of this. It looked like Downton Abbey. We'd walk out of this castle, and we'd walk down a light road, and we'd go into a pub in the village, Lincoln Kennedy, and all of us would sit there, and Brent Musburger would pay for everything. He bought everyone their beer, and, we had snacks, and he would just tell story after story. And I would go back in the time difference and call my wife and said, I was just drinking at a pub outside of London with Brent Musburger. It was really a bucket list.
Oh, that must have been great. Oh, it's just, when I ran into him at the NBA Finals, he was calling the NBA Finals on the radio, ESPN radio at the time. So he had radio chops. Just give him a microphone. He's one of the guys. It didn't even have to be sports. Give him a microphone. He could talk.
One of the greatest locker room presentations ever was Brent Musburger in the locker room for the Super Bowl, interviewing Al Davis, just win, baby. And, those moments, and then calling the NBA Finals. Oh, my God. Calling Bird and Magic, and then being on the desk with Phyllis George and Jimmy the Greek and Irv Cross, and to watch all that. And just his social life. Cool
part to have. That's up there with you, with Reggie Jackson knowing your name, is Brent Musburger knowing your name, right? I mean, that is up there with touching your childhood. You realize you've done something for a living that's cheating. You've done something for a living. You were able to tie a childhood love of sports into somehow making a living, rather than having to wake up and be at the office at 9, then come home at 5 and get on the train, like wonderful people do all over the country, and make the country run. You didn't have to do that for a living. Incredible.
Yeah, and I'll come back with some stories on Monday for Eric Allen. He's one of the most humble people I've ever met. I mean, when you talk about humility and being humble, I don't have that in me. I think I could be a good person a lot of times, but the humble gene,
Right.
because I always felt in my career that no one was talking me up enough. Some of the scoundrels we worked for and the program director. So I always said, look here, I'm over here. I'm doing great work. Please, please, please look. Eric Allen's the opposite. Eric Allen is without a doubt the nicest guy he's on the Mount Rushmore of just nice people. I mean, he's not tied to his cell phone. Like I could text him and I don't hear back from him for a month. And I'll be like, I texted you the other day when I see him. He's like, oh, I didn't know. And he's not tied to technology. He's really embedded with his wife and kids and his grandkid. And now he's going into the Hall of Fame with a gold jacket. And I'm honored to be invited to the gold jacket ceremony with the family. And normally when I go to the Hall of Fame, I don't go to the gold jacket ceremony. I'm out partying and I'm out at restaurants, but I'm going to go to this with my wife. And I think emotionally, because the Hall of Fame, when they do it at the stadium and it's the speech and it's hot and everybody goes through it, that can get emotional. But there's nothing more emotional when they let you put the gold jacket on for the first time. You're not supposed to wear it. You get fitted for it. A member of your family or a coach, I'm not going to spoil who it's going to be, is going to put the coat on him and he's going to step out with the gold jacket on. And I think I'll be holding back the tears for that one because I know about his journey and he should have been in. And we're the exact same age. We were born less than 12 hours apart. He's on the 22nd of November. I'm on the 23rd, same year. And I'm going to get emotional for this one because the other events I emceed in Canton, two of the gentlemen were dead, Ken Stabler and Cliff Branch. And then I emceed Tom Flores' party, and he was in a wheelchair, and he should have been in 25 years earlier. And Eric gets in at 59 years old with his whole life in front of him to walk into every room, Tom, and be called a Hall of Famer.
Well, I guess one of the great, the balance we have in life sometimes is for all those years that nobody remembered. This is a payoff from the universe for Eric Allen. All those years that no one remembered his birthday. They were just talking about the Kennedy assassination and Thanksgiving, just like you.
You're right.
He gets rewarded you got rewarded with friends and family who love you and a cool career. So I'll balance the fact that everyone forgets your birthday, and he got rewarded with a gold jacket.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a full circle moment. And the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is really hard to get into. Unlike the Baseball Hall of Fame, and normally the Baseball Hall of Fame is hard to get into. They just had the class. And another really cool moment for me is I got a nice note from CC Sabathia. CC Sabathia grew up listening to me and you when he was young, and he became friends of mine, and he got into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, along with Ichiro, Dave Parker, deceased, Dick Allen, deceased, and Billy Wagner. And it was nice to reach out to CC Sabathia on his great achievements as a lefty Hall of Famer. He took a picture at the Hall of Fame with Randy Johnson and Sandy Koufax, the lefties. Wow. And I was like, oh, that hit me. That was like, wow, holy shit. CC's in the hall and Sandy Koufax is alive and looks great in a blazer. And they have like a little lefties clique of the lefties in the Hall of Fame. I thought that was super cool.
Well, it's every once in a while we have this conversation. It probably sounds maybe a little like a lot of puffery, maybe to some people who listen, but we've done a cool thing for a living, and so we have this conversation about famous people who know our names, and it throws us off. Didn't you run into CC? You realized he knew who you were because he gave you a shout out like on the sidelines at a Raider game.
Yeah, he came up to me on the sidelines of the Charger game in San Diego, and the media guy, I was doing the sidelines, so I had the headset on and the microphone and the pack on, with the battery, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, CC Sabathia wants to say hello." He was with Grady Sizemore.
Oh,
and he walked up to me and he introduced himself and he said to Grady Sizemore, "This is JT the Brick, man. I've been listening to him since I was a kid in Vallejo and Hayward, and we hit it off. And then every year CC comes back for a Raider game. And what's cool about CC is when he shows up to a Raider game on the sideline, if it's an outdoor game, he's got the winter coat and the Raider cap on. And if it's at Allegiant Stadium, he's got a Raider vest on. Like, he's diehard
Wow.
Diehard Raider fan. So that was really cool. But, it's interesting you said the celebrities that we meet in life. And I'm going through this stage now. I go to Raiders practice every day. And when I say nobody knows me, the new guys, Ashton Genty knows me. I interviewed him, Jack Bash. But, everybody walks by. They don't know me because I'm in my late 50s and these guys are in their early 20s. And they don't listen to radio and they haven't listened to radio. But then, the guys that I am tight with, Fred Biletnikoff, and, you look back at legends like we mentioned in Eric Allen, who's my same age, Reggie Jackson, when Pete Rose was alive, Jim Brown, who was a dear friend. Last time I saw Jim Brown was in Canton, Ohio a couple of years ago. Touching your heroes. If you would have told me when I was 12 years old in North Massapequa, Long Island, sitting with my dad watching sports, that I would have a deep personal bond with Reggie Jackson, Fred Biletnikoff, and Pete Rose. I mean, you never would have been able to paint that story. And then a lot of it had to do with luck and being on the radio. And, I always say being on radio is different than being on TV or being in the movies or doing anything. Being on the radio is cool because back in the day, a lot of people used to listen to radio and we touched a lot of people. Now we're trying to touch them on different platforms.
Yeah, we are, but you never know. It was great. I remember Bruce Pearl. We one night our producer got Bruce Pearl on, who's now coaching at Auburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, and so the time I think he was coaching somewhere else. But we got it's happened more than once. And Michelle Obama's brother, people who coach in college and have to drive around at night because they're doing all that recruiting and they got to drive home, listen to sports talk radio. And we find out because we'll get them on as guests and they get excited because they feel like they know us. And it's always thrown us. Sometimes, controversial coaches who might be getting some kind of roiled in some kind of controversy or one or another. In the back of our mind, we're saying, oh, I like him. He likes me. So even if they're in trouble or they say something stupid or they get arrested or whatever it is, that sometimes goes through our minds because it is when we used to go to Vegas to Radio Row for the fights, which is always an amazing event. There would be either peers or athletes who knew of us, and that was always a lot of fun.
One more touch with greatness and celebrity, which will be a good segue for what we wanted to talk about today, it was probably 1974 or 5. I'm in San Diego. My college fraternity brother, who's my roommate in San Diego's dad, was a congressman back in Long Island.
Wow.
Congressman, real congressman in the U.S. Congress.
One of 435.
And he represented the town that Billy Joel lived in. So we got tickets to Billy Joel in the heyday of Billy Joel.
Oh, my God.
And we saw him in San Diego. And afterwards, the congressman wasn't with us, but he set up backstage. And we went backstage into this trailer, not in a room, into a trailer where Billy Joel was. And I'll never forget, it was a night, it was in the low 70s, high 60s, and Billy Joel had on a scarf. And he was sitting in the trailer, and he knew that we were coming. It was just two of us. And he was kind enough to get up, shake our hands. He talked to my buddy about his dad and asked who I was. I shook his hand. I could tell he wasn't feeling well. It was right after the show. It was a long show. He wasn't feeling well, but we met Billy Joel. And you and I just finished the Billy Joel documentary on HBO Max, or was it Max HBO? You changed it. You changed it on this podcast, and I'm going to put it into my top 5 all-time rock docs. Holy shit, was that Billy Joel documentary unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't even know if, and by the way, his greatness never was beyond me because sitting down and playing a piano has always been a fantasy of mine. I always admired anybody that could do it, no matter what genre the music is. If someone sits down and plays the piano, I'm just fascinated by it. I think they're great. But he was amidst so many ensconced in so many geniuses happening at the same time with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and everything else, and Elton John and Queen and all this going on. We were spoiled and didn't know it. And I was used to Billy Joel and didn't realize always the full extent of the greatness. Although in college, my roommate went out and bought an album called Songs from the Attic.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Joel, and his first album that came out was mastered at like 47 RPM, rather 33, like 35 RPM. It was sped up, so his voice didn't sound like his voice. And so he did all those old songs live, and I was blown away. And it was live. It's a live album. And I know you have a thing about sounding like the music when you're live and not improvising and sounding different. And it really captured me then. Love the story of loyalty. And I'm not going to give anything away here because it's a 4-hour documentary. We could give an hour of it away. You still got 3 more, and it's a 2-parter. And you're disappointed when it's over. He needed better management, and so the George Martin, who managed the Beatles, had nothing to do. Met him backstage after a performance at Carnegie Hall, where he still wasn't making that much money even before Carnegie Hall, and wasn't managed that well. And he said, I want to manage your career. You just got to get rid of those guys. I just want you. And Billy Joel said, this is where it hits us. No, those are my guys. No. And turned down the Beatles, the guy who made the Beatles what they were, because the guy didn't want his band members. That's like, for me, that's the apex of who he is in the video right there. Yeah, he didn't have a perfect life, and he drank too much, and he fell in love too much. But the people he fell in love with, the women he fell in love with, all came back to participate in the documentary. That says something about him too.
Yeah, I got a lot to say on this, so I could give a shit about spoilers. If you're going to watch it, you're not going to watch it. I'm going to talk about this. Okay. I've been dying a podcast with you on this. So Billy Joel grew up next to me in the hometown right next to me, Hicksville. I grew up in Massapequa. My cousin, my uncle, who's the twin brother of my dad, settled in Hicksville. My dad settled in North Massapequa. So Billy Joel was the backdrop of my life. So he was obviously older. And when I was going through elementary school and high school, Billy Joel was breaking, and it was huge. The Stranger, those albums had a big impact on me. So I thought I knew a lot about Billy Joel. Billy Joel fan, had every one of his albums, saw him early in my life, and I had no idea. And that's what makes a great documentary. When we saw The Last Dance about Michael Jordan, what made it a great documentary was we knew nothing about it. We all worshiped at the altar of Michael Jordan, and we knew none of this. And the documentary teased us and gave us episode after episode. The same thing with Billy Joel. So I knew the Long Island background, and the early part of his life I didn't know a lot about. His mom, who at that point it was bipolar, but it wasn't diagnosed. His dad gets up and leaves and moves back and just basically leaves him. And Billy Joel was trying to make
his dad a piano player who never fucking taught him how to play the piano.
Right. And then his dad ends up moving away, and then he starts grinding, and he starts working the bars and building bands and doing all that. He literally tried to start a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
A heavy metal band to try to get going. And for Billy Joel, drinking, there was a big backdrop of the water, which I'll get to, growing up on the water and how much boating and the water meant to him on Long Island. And the fact that he had alcohol problems throughout his whole life, as you said perfectly, he fell in love a bunch. But when you see the fact that he fell in love with his best friend's wife, that was heavy, because I knew a little bit about that, and she becomes the manager.
Yeah.
And let's discuss that part of how she focuses him and corrals the band to do great things and really get their first big break. She was amazing.
Right, because when you just drop that in, sounds awful, is awful. He knows it. But again, that best friend's wife, who he ended up marrying, who managed his career brilliantly, who managed Billy Joel's career brilliantly, he also participated and became a member of the band again, and they stayed close. So that says something about Billy.
Yes.
And he when he fell in love with his best friend's wife, they all split up. She said, "Oh, you two guys," and she split up, left with the kid, and so they're all 3 alone, all 4 of them. So he was crushed that he ruined a friendship and that he lost her, and so almost committed suicide. Comes back from that and just writes a bunch of songs about her. Once he realizes, I'm alive and I guess I'm going to be around. and then gave a cassette of those songs to her sister, who was eventual wife's sister, his best friend's wife's sister. She gives the cassette to her, and she falls in love with him when she hears all this music that he wrote about her, and comes back. It's a great, and then the best friends again, and they're married, and it's just incredible. And people really believed in him. The Hollywood hotshot couple that let him stay in their house in Malibu and write songs because they had to go to New York and do some producing or something. You give a guy doesn't have that much money. This is how much they believed in his future. Stay in our house in Malibu and write songs. I mean, you must have some kind of talent if someone just says that to you and you don't have much money.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to jump on, which you said eloquently, is he tried to commit suicide twice.
Yeah.
Let's stop there. If he achieved that and died, there's no Christy Brinkley, there's no daughter Alexa, there's no 2 young daughters now with his third or fourth wife, I think a third wife. So his life ends. We don't get any of his good work. We don't know the library and the catalog of Billy Joel.
Right.
So you hear that term, tried to kill himself. Oh, he did. He did. And his sister saved him. And
his sister almost killed him too, because she gave him the sleeping pills because she was a nurse. I mean,
absolutely.
And she's wonderful.
The other thing about the LA years, because I lived at one time on Benedict Canyon Drive in the valley. And on Benedict Canyon Drive at the top of the valley and then on the Hollywood side is where all the music exploded in the 70s because of Jackson Brown, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Linda Ronstadt, all of the Eagles, Don Henley, everything happened up there. And Billy Joel wasn't too far from that. And as we talk about this documentary, at one point, as he was trying to get out of his initial contract, where the manager who discovered him, to his credit, got a quarter, 25 cents out of every dollar. And Billy said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this, and give him the money. He drops into LA, into a piano bar, and becomes the piano man. And people don't realize he's Billy Joel performing there every night.
He's got a different last name. Yeah.
With a different last name. And you're seeing the LA years where he didn't have any money. He's going back home with his wife and his stepson. I am really fascinated with this documentary because there were several points in the documentary where Billy Joel hit rock bottom, or what I perceived was rock bottom, where he could have quit. He could have went back to Hicksville, got on a boat, been a fisherman. He was right there, and he got through it. And I think he got through it because of his bandmates, the women he was with, and the fact that there were people that knew how talented he was. But man, Tom, he was pretty destructive to himself and really caused a lot of damage in his life that he admitted throughout the documentary. And you could tell that he was looking for forgiveness. And I think a lot of people, if you watch the documentary, you won't believe the life of Billy Joel and all the mistakes and transgressions and how he got to the other side.
Well, and all the damage that was done to him that would drive anyone to drink. From the dad baggage, and when he and Christy Brinkley who were leading this incredibly glamorous life, decide to go on a road trip up to Maine. If anybody's ever been in Maine in the summertime, there's a small window when Maine is beautiful. It's called July and August. But this is so beautiful in Maine that people endure how cold it is between September and June to live there in July and August. It's incredible. And go ahead. Yeah.
You're right about that. That Christy Brinkley drive, she was in love with him. I mean, this isn't Christy 100%. Brinkley who met him in St. Bart's with Elle Macpherson and a bunch of.
He could have married Elle Macpherson, Whitney Houston, or Christy Brinkley. That's all, because they were sitting around his bar. Which one do I want to marry next? He was. What a life! Oh, so they get to Maine, and they're traveling around Maine and stopping in small places. And a couple of different times, people said, "Yeah, we heard you bought a house down the street." It happened more than once, because his manager was buying houses down the street, but using his name. And Christy Brinkley did some nosing around. Why do people keep saying you bought? We kept popping in places, and people would say, "Yeah, we know you bought something down the street." And Christy Brinkley find out, no, his manager was siphoning money and buying property all over the world. And so she also financially helped him with the comeback. That was his old brother-in-law. That broke his heart. That was his first wife's brother. It was a small knit pack that he had. And so that drove him to drink and had to go back out and start working hard again.
Yeah, he got rid of his drummer, Liberty DeVito, who I remember back then, and they patched it up. But to wrap this portion up, because people should watch this Billy Joel documentary. If you just love documentaries, forget about music, sports. I compare it to The Last Dance. It was that good. When Hurricane Sandy hit on Long Island, one of my best friends who I just saw in Boston lived in Wantar, which was right next to Hicksville in Long Island, and his home got wiped out. And I was very close to people who were affected by Sandy. And Billy Joel pretty much was retired at that point. He was done. He was done. And they asked him to come out for the Sandy benefit at Madison Square Garden, and he performs. With little warm-up and little practice, he goes out at Madison Square Garden, plays 4 songs, and nails it.
Oh, it blew the house down. Yep.
Blew the house down. And then that's when James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks and the Rangers, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I got to give him credit for Sphere out here. And the fact that he gave Billy Joel the residency. He gives Billy Joel the residency. They have the video of the first show, the 100th show. It's now past 100. His name hangs in the rafters at Madison Square Garden. And now Billy Joel, they kind of gave you a little nugget of it, is worth $500 million again because he built it all up for the 3rd time.
Right.
Built his net worth up again on hard work, music, and perseverance. I thought that was great too.
What also goes to show his innate talent, and we say innate talent. We do that with athletes all the time. They work their ass off. They become great. We act like it's innate talent, but his ability to do this, especially at an older age, that benefited people were being bitches, as people will, because there was the advent of the internet and the phone, and that benefit for Sandy at Madison Square Garden was a lot of 80s guys who were going up there and sucking. And then Billy Joel came out. And whether or not anyone was a Billy Joel fan at that point, they all became fans at that point because he didn't suck. He got up there with very little warning and was amazing. And that was also how he ended up getting himself that residency, because he didn't suck and just go up there and play some songs and not care. He could sit down at a piano and be great, whether it was at a bar in Maine, hanging out in the Bahamas, which is how he met Christy, or at Madison Square Garden for a benefit concert. He never mailed it in.
It was absolutely fabulous. And I think I'm a good example of why everyone should watch that. I grew up next to him. I knew nothing. I don't want to say I knew nothing. I knew about 10% of this, and I thought I knew 80% going in. That's a great documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wrapped up a trip in Long Island with my great fraternity brother, and we were in Long Island, and he's got a boat, and he lives in one of the most fabulous homes you've ever seen. I'm so proud of him. And we stayed at his house for a number of days, and that's in Billy Joel's zip code. Mm-hmm. So he took us on a boat from his Huntington Harbor, Lloyd Neck. It was like 17 minutes. We got to Connecticut. We went right across the Long Island Sound. We had lunch. It was a great lunch, and we're coming back. And my buddy Mike says to me, "Do you want to go through Oyster Bay?" And I go, "Holy shit, yeah. I've never been through Oyster Bay on the water." So he comes in via Oyster Bay on his boat, and he's like, we go right up to Billy Joel's house.
Wow.
I'll send you the picture for the podcast. I think it should be in there. We go right up to that house where Billy Joel is, where you see him on the piano and the concrete, and he's redoing it. And he says, "When I was a little boy, I wanted to live in this house."
Right.
That's the house. Right. And then I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So we leave that house of Billy Joel, and the boat was there. Remember the boat in the movie, the Alexa? Yep. Right there. We kind of cruise out of Oyster Bay, and we go by the Dolan compound. Dolan, the owner of the Knicks and the Rangers and Sphere, who gives Billy the residency. And I look at my buddy, and I see 3 houses in a row, and they were $30 million mansions. And I go, "Who owns that?" He goes, "That's the Dolan compound. That's Stephen Dolan. That's James Dolan. And that's James Dolan's daughter." And as far as the eye could see was beach, 3 mansions, and the Dolans had a lot to do with Billy Joel because they put him up in the residency at the Garden.
Wow.
And they live, you could skip a rock in that Oyster Bay Cove from where they live together. And I got a chance to see it, and I got kind of emotional as I was watching it with my wife going, oh my God, we were in the water in the cove looking at Billy Joel's house 3 weeks ago, and now we're watching the documentary. It was super cool.
Yeah, there never stops. And we haven't spoiled anything because it's 4 hours and there's nugget after nugget, especially with the dad. There's lots of nuggets with the dad that are quite incredible. And he's got a brother. He's got his brother that he didn't know about. That is a conductor. Because a conductor. So music is in the veins and the DNA of anyone born into that family with that last name.
Yeah, and just go watch it. It was amazing. Now, this will be one of the greatest and toughest segues in the history of podcasting, which I really believe we should be considered right up there with Bill Simmons and Rogan and Smartless with Jason Bateman. We do a better job than Jason Bateman. And Sean Haynes. Oh, by the way, Sean Haynes, who is a Broadway actor and great actor. He was a producer on this Billy Joel documentary.
Oh,
and he's in Smartless, which could be one of the most successful podcasts. But here's the segue in 3, 2, and 1. I want the Epstein files released, all of them. I'm sick of this shit. I don't care who was president 12 years ago, 16 years ago, or now. Pam Bondi, Miss Tough Pammy, I got it on my desk. I'm running. I will clean up everything. The JFK files, MLK. Oh, okay. So release it. And now, it's no big deal. Oh, forget about it. Look over here. Look over here. I have a trick. Look over here. Both parties. It could have been released by the former president. It should be released by this president. We are living through a modern day conspiracy, not on what Epstein did. We know what he did. He was a heinous human being. There were people there who were there and shouldn't have been there that might have done nothing. They might have just been on an island.
Right, because they wanted to hang around a rich guy. Yep.
There were people who were complicit in all this. I don't give a shit. Release it all. And I know now it's tainted. I know shit's been taken out of it. I know it's been tampered with. And I'm really upset about it because I was led to believe through individual people who use the media, all the cable news outlets, to say the boogeyman of Epstein and these files, we got them. And we're going to release it on a certain date when we gain power. And it was all bullshit. And I want that thing cleaned up, Tom.
Yeah, and it's not going to get. The cover up is bigger than the crime. Is always the cliche that they use, which is not a cliche, which is what they use all the time when it comes to politics. And we don't care again. But I think people always wonder why if you and I don't always agree politically, we get along, because I think it's because of we have one thing in common, and that's our social political beliefs. A lot of times are many times more Catholic than they are liberal or conservative, and the American labels for what we have for politics. And I don't care who's in there. if Clinton, we can't release it because Clinton's in there, and Trump would want to release it, I think, if Clinton was in there, but there's too much Trump in there. And so and even if, again, if he had nothing to do with committing any crimes, but he was just hanging out, a lot of people, that's just the thing. A lot of people didn't always know, but this guy, he's rich, he has cool parties, and he's got an island, etc. There had to be people. Anytime you're just associated with people, excuse me, it doesn't mean, if you ever bought pot from a guy on a corner, or you bought cocaine from a guy who lives on the corner, then you're associated with cartels. Right? You are associated, but it doesn't mean you're involved in the business of cartels. So associated can be a weasel word. Rich people invite other rich people over to their parties, and sometimes you might have a picture taken with a person who's done something scandalous. A picture doesn't make you guilty of something, but so just release it, and we'll figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah, we were told about everybody who was at the P. Diddy parties, the freak-offs, and everybody was on Epstein Island. We were told about it at such an alarming rate through the media, that you cannot bloviate that much. Like I always like Bill O'Reilly at times. He's another guy who grew up in the town next to me. He was a bloviator. He called himself a bloviator. Whatever he said he had, he would tell you, like him or not. He didn't hold anything back. Still doesn't, right? There are other people. Joe Rogan, great example. He gets it from the right and the left. Joe Rogan's going to tell you what he thinks. He's not going to hold anything back.
Right.
What happened to little tough Pam Bondi? She was banging I'm the queen. I got it all. It's right on my desk. To watch her squirm and not be able, she's not allowed to. And I feel for her in a way. She's not allowed to do what she wants to do because we know why. Developing hot. ... One more thing. Let's get one more thing in here. We talked about what streaming, sports.
I thought that was a perfect ending. What's the one more thing?
You're right about that. What do you think about the backyard brick backdrop? Technically, did it work?
Yes. The lighting is fine. As I mentioned, I thought because you were going to go to Canton, I thought you were at the Howard Johnson's pool in Canton. Is that where you're staying? Are you staying at the Howard Johnson's in Canton?
It's funny. 20 years ago, there was only a Howard Johnson. Now there's some. I know what I want you to leave us all with. Another conspiracy theory. Luka Doncic losing all this weight. Does he have to give back the money that he had to the Mavericks and the Lakers last year when he was fat and out of shape? I love when guys lose all this weight. They're on the cover of Men's Health and they're totally ripped. Are we allowed to now have lawyers go back and say, oh, when you were 40, not 20 pounds overweight, we'd like to get back that 48 million because you weren't at your best for our team. What's going on?
Well, first of all, he always looked like he was at his best. He's an amazing basketball player. But, I will always fall on the side of guilty for anyone, including coaches, anyone who works in a gym, makes a lot of money, can afford a chef and a personal trainer, and isn't in shape. Prince Fielder, I used to take shots at all the time. Because your job is at a facility, a physical fitness facility is where you work, and you're overweight. It's like the guys that the trainers at the gym, they're overweight. You work in a physical fitness community, in a physical fitness business, and you're overweight. You're unprofessional.
Thanks for listening to the JT and Looney podcast. Please subscribe for free. Please share with your friends. Please let everybody know I'm on Insta at JT the Brick LV. My son's been doing a lot of cool stuff.
He does
on the gram.
Social media game?
Where do we find you on social media again?
You can find me on Looney on TV at Twitter, or now known as X, and Looney on TV at Instagram.